Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, Peter, in all the flurry of the summit in Geneva this week, there was a little bit more diplomatic jockeying that took place the day after. The UK Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, telephoned Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. And from what we know about the meeting from the readout that is being posted on the Russian Foreign Ministry site, this phone conversation did not go well. Because,
Surprise!
Yes, because as far as the UK Foreign Office site, there is the tersest description of what was discussed. So we have to go by what the Russians say. And clearly, Lavrov told Raab that the very low state of Russian-British relations is entirely the fault of the UK. The UK has continually launched completely unjustified, evidence-free accusations against Russia. The UK has prevented Russian diplomats based in the UK from doing their work. And the UK has been continually adopting a very hostile attitude toward Russia. And after that, they kind of agreed that we'll talk at a later date. We'll do lunch sometime. Now, what's interesting about this is that the Russian position was very forthright. There was no diplomatic niceties here. There were none of the pleasantries. Putin, for instance, today spoke very warmly about Biden, said he's really smart, he's very much on the ball, don't be taken in by his doddering manner, he's very sharp. So Putin spoke very warmly. And generally, the Russians speak very respectfully toward the United States. They may not like US policy, they may not like the US government, but they do respect US power. They do know that this is a formidable adversary. You can't treat it as a joke. They don't accord the same respect to the United Kingdom. Their feeling is the UK has had a chance to be an independent player. Once a great power, has a chance, to now, even particularly after Brexit, when supposedly we're going to now have the global Britain and would now carve out its own space. Instead, the UK slavishly follows the lead of the Americans. Indeed, tries to be even more hawkish and belligerent than the Americans, like more Catholic than the Pope. And the Russians aren't impressed. They're not, they say, well, we can get the message from the master. We can get all that from Washington. Why do we need you? And that is a very disdainful treatment for what was once a great power. Okay, Peter, what did you think?
Yeah, what adds insult to injury is that you have so many of these crooked Russian businessmen that flee to the UK and suddenly, they're pro-democracy, anti-Putin, I'm a dissident, after they emptied out a state bank, okay? And the number of them that are residing there, it's ungodly. It's so disgusting here. They always play that card, okay? You steal in the middle of the night, hop on a private plane, and all of a sudden you're a dissident in the UK. It's really abhorrent. Yeah, it's really, where are the Screpels, by the way? Okay.
Yes, that's quite right. And that's one of the things that the Russians raised, which is you are continually making these accusations against them. And they specifically said that how we are supposedly violating the Chemical Weapons Convention, whereas in fact it is you who has undermined the work of the OPCW. So again, very harsh language that the Russians
and the OCPW in so many different ways too, right. By the way, all right?
Very many different.
And then, again, on the OPCW, again, is another forum where the British representative just parrots the American Washington line. As if they were like an employee. Yes. Yeah, so, the UK, it really shoots itself in the foot because actually leaving the European Union gave it at least nominally speaking, a position of being a broker, okay? Right. Not a decision maker, but a broker, someone that could grease the wheels. And that, in the history of diplomacy, that is a really coveted place to have, okay? Yes. Because you get to punch up, above your weight.
Exactly.
And what the UK does is just squander it all of the time. I mean, you know, the British have a navy, but the Russians have warships. You see, even discursively on every single level, they're going into the North Sea. Yep, that's international waters. Okay.
Right.
Okay. They're training whales and seals and all of this stuff. I mean, it's you know what it is? It's a tabloid foreign policy.
Yes. You remember when Biden administration decided that they would send these 2 warships into the Black Sea, and then I think when suddenly cooler heads prevailed in Washington, they said, "Hey, we're getting ourselves into a serious possible military confrontation with Russia." They said, "Nah, I think we'll change our mind. We're not going to send these 2 warships into the Black Sea." Then Boris Johnson said, "But we will send 2 warships into the Black Sea." And of course, they too changed their minds and actually didn't send a warship, just a couple of sailboats in there. But it was pathetic to say, we're going to do it. We're not like the Americans. We're not going to back down. And say, yeah, I think you'd better back down. I think you of all people don't want to get yourself into a military confrontation.
As the situation in Ukraine was boiling up, we had British troops that were embedded into the Ukrainian military as Zelensky's talking like a hothead about a possible conflict. So you have this situation where, and if everything totally turns into a train wreck, you could have British troops fighting on the side of Ukraine against Donetsk and Lugansk, where Russia has drawn a red line that they won't allow them to fall. I mean, can you say August 1914? I mean, this is a nightmare scenario. They should know better.
Of course they should. And let's be honest. I mean, the British aren't really the British never really were that good at fighting. I mean, they've always been very cunning in how they fought their wars. They used their financial power, they used their naval power, but generally they let other people do the fighting for them. Whenever the British themselves have been involved in fighting, they nearly always perform badly. They fought poorly in the Crimean War, fought poorly in the Boer War, fought very poorly in World War I, fought very poorly in World War II, incidentally, other than the RAF. But nonetheless, the idea that
Market Garden, remember? Yeah. Monty, great plan on paper, but what could go wrong? Okay, that's where we get the term "a bridge too far," folks.
Exactly, that's right. So, and then we got all the other debacles, and then of course we had the Basra. They fought very poorly in Basra during the Iraq invasion. So the notion that they're now going to take on the Russians in Ukraine, I don't think that's a workable plan.
It's kind of, they're like the little brother, in the special relationship. I guess that's what the special relationship is, to be the little brother, okay? And you can shout and throw stones, but you're standing next to your big brother, so nothing's really going to happen to you. Okay, I mean, and the thing is too is that just the rank hypocrisy. Julian Assange is rotting in the UK, and the UK is talking about freedom of speech and due process and all of that. The Russians look at that and they just despise that hypocrisy.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And what the Russian position is that, look, if you want to be treated with respect, you need to behave in accordance with the way great powers are supposed to behave. What the British did in mobilizing this national consensus, or this attacking consensus against Russia over the Skripals, again, they had no evidence. But even then, I mean, when Putin said, use a little bit of common sense, Skripal is an absolute scumbag. I don't feel sorry for him whatsoever. No one should feel any sorry for him. This is a guy who is a traitor to his country. And you condition relations of the Western countries with Russia for a scumbag like Skripal. And you'd have thought the British would have understood this. And instead, Theresa May, remember that? I think one of those G20 meetings, you remember when Theresa May stood there, with utter contempt on her face when forced to shake Putin's hand. I mean, what kind of a serious power is that?
It's not. And it's really interesting. The the more uppity the British want to be with the Russians, the more they show their weakness.
Right.
Okay, because everyone, there's certain norms. I try to avoid using that because of some politics, but there's certain norms in diplomatic exchanges that you respect. Okay,
Right.
the Russians are very fastidious about it. Okay, right. To put it in shorthand, they are very, very old school when it comes to that.
Yes,
And
yeah.
when it's violated, particularly from a country that thinks that they're equal with you,
Right.
well, I mean, then it breaks down, and then you can show your contempt. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't at least play by the rules, okay?
Right.
And
Yeah.
if and like I think you're absolutely right. They don't like the Americans. They don't like their arrogance, but they respect the Americans because it's truly a great power. Okay, the
Right.
UK no longer is. Okay, like I said, to be in the middle as a power broker is their niche. It has always been their niche,
Right.
and I would say broadly, more times than not, they landed in the right place. Okay, but now they squander everything.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because remember when de Gaulle began to carve out this independent French foreign policy, he was able to do that. He'd had that role of a kind of mediator. It wasn't quite with the US led West NATO camp, not with Russia as well. That gave him leverage, and he enjoyed a lot of respect in Moscow. The Germans as well in the Ostpolitik era, whether it was Brandt, Schmidt, or Kohl, they enjoyed respect because they were able to, not quite in this camp and not quite in the other camp. Britain doesn't have that role. Britain is just simply an attack dog, the US attack dog. Then why should the Russians take them seriously?
Yeah, and since the UK is out of the EU, they think they can punch higher in NATO. Well, grow up, because the Americans will never allow that to happen.
No.
Never,
No.
never. It's
Never.
always run by an American. Okay,
yes, exactly.
And so I mean the fact that they left the European Union, they think that what they're doing is taking an advantageous situation and just destroying it. Okay, they're shortchanging themselves. They should be acting in a very, very different way, and they would get respect. Okay, even in respect from institutions as far as norms and all that, not because their navy has gotten so small that they have to share ships with the French. Okay, I mean, given British history, that's kind of humiliating. I'm sorry.
Yes, it is. But it's interesting, though, that even in this case, the British are following slavishly of the Americans. So suddenly the Americans are making nice with Moscow, and suddenly, oh, yeah, we got to take a bit of that. I think I'd like a telephone call. I'm going to put in a phone call to, Sergei. Hey, can we talk about something? And then Sergei picks up the phone and then just lets him have it. We really have had it with you. We're up to here with everything you've been doing.
I wonder if Sergei Lavrov speaks English with him.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because
he could do it.
Because I've seen Lavrov speak many times, and
right.
when it's an official engagement, he has to speak Russian. But every once in a while, he'll just, dispense with the translation. Okay, right. let my people translate it the other way later. Okay, and then he just dives into it. Okay, because I have to wonder, and I think because it was such a terse conversation, he probably did do it in English.
That's really interesting. I mean, it's quite possible, because I think it sounded very much like the Russians. They had a lot that they needed to get off their chest. They've been really putting up with a great deal from the British ever since the Theresa May started her whole Skripal's nonsense. And then and all the other nonsense from Gavin Williamson and Boris Johnson and Dominic Raab and all these endless attacks on Russia. They're so sick of this, and it's bad enough to put up with this nonsense, but it's coming from really a very mediocre, very weak power. They're just really sick of this.
It's really the varsity team, I mean, throw in like a Blinken as well. Okay,
right,
I mean,
right.
And Jake Sullivan. These are all just B-listers. I mean, when I hear them speak, usually either it's just gobbledygook or I have no idea what they're talking about, because they're not talking about what they're supposed to be doing. Defense, security, foreign policy. It's always about something else. Okay,
yes.
It's what this is. It's all turned into lifestyle stuff. Which I think for real diplomats, why are you talking lifestyle with me?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, that's it, and that's why when they start talking about values, democracy, let's have a democracy summit, and we're gonna, we're about, we're about all of the things that unite us. You think, what are you talking about? What are your interests? It's like, well, what issues are you gonna raise with Russia? We're gonna raise Navalny. Well, that's a Russian matter. What are your interests that you want to raise with Russia? I mean, crack down on dissent in Russia. What are your interests? What are British interests?
This is like cappuccino politics. Right. Okay, all right. And what are they going to do? Is NATO? Do they have a cappuccino division? If they don't, they probably should set one up. Okay, their long laundry list of things they're doing.
Yes.
Making sure that their trans girls in India have cappuccino, for God's sake. I always go to these extremes here, but to make my point here is that there are real issues out there, and you need to do it in a traditional diplomatic way. This is what we think. This is what you think. This is what we think should be done. This is what we think should be done. Right. And we sit at a table and we hash it out. Okay. Right. And you show due respect.
Right. Exactly. And when you start putting on the agenda matters that are entirely within the domestic jurisdiction of another state, you're not going to get anywhere. They're just going to say, we're not going to discuss this. I mean, it's an internal matter. You're not any more than you're going to discuss it if we start talking about what goes on in the latest by-election that you've just had. I mean, you're not going to.
It's like after a divorce, you're divorced, okay? Right. And then your ex calls up. Now, I want to talk about our divorce. Why? We're divorced. Okay. I mean, why do you want to keep talking about this thing? I mean, it's a form of derangement.
It is.
And it's a form of empowerment, because you have no power. So what you do is you bring up an issue that you think will empower you at the expense of your interlocutor. But the interlocutor says, I don't care about these issues. And why are you asking?
That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's particularly apt when the British keep insisting that they have a say in what goes on in Hong Kong. Well, we have this Hong Kong, this joint declaration, but you gave up your sovereignty. The sovereignty over Hong Kong passed to China. That's it. You stop talking about this joint declaration. It's of no importance.
And where was the democracy in Hong Kong under British rule? Right. Folks, it was a colony.
Yeah. But you signed over the sovereignty and you still keep talking about it. It's gone. That's it. You signed it over. It's like when you sign over your house, you owned a house and then you sign it over. You don't own it anymore. You can't. Well, I don't like the way you put the bathroom here.
I still want to use the garage.
Yeah, that's right. I don't like this. No, I think you've got to rearrange the furniture here.
Well, in a nutshell, we just described British foreign policy. The homeowner that sold the house that won't let go.
That's it. All right, Peter, where can we find the gaggle?
We are on Locals now, so take a look at the gaggle.locals.com. Hang on here, buddy. Come to pop.
Yeah, buddy. You need to get yes.
There we go. Oh. Nap time. There you go.
That's it. Yeah.
So we have a tip jar, and Buddy checks it every day.
He does check it every day. You're like, look. He's you can't say no to that. I mean, what a sweet face. You can't say no to that.
Anything you guys can do to help, we really appreciate it. Exactly. And we do have a new product out there. Talk to George and I one-on-one. Take a look at our page at Locals and all the details. Please keep in mind we live in different time zones, so we have to manage that. Okay, but George and I are more than willing to talk to you.
Exactly, and we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a very exciting project. So do please sign up. It should be a lot of fun. We're also on Rumble. Look us up there. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye, buddy. See you.